closed my eyes, and then suddenly my vision got very bright. I remember seeing these two figures. They were dressed in white and they had like gold belts. One of them looked over to me and said, "Be glad and rejoice because you're going to see the Lord." I get lifted up very high and I land on this platform. I see a big gold throne and I look up and I see like a spiral of just angels. And I see this light comes towards me and the voice said, "I will give you the clarity and wisdom that you are seeking, but hurry because time is running out."
Welcome to God's Voice Daily. I'm your host, Vladimir Proknevsky, and this is the channel where I share daily phone calls with people from around the world who've had real supernatural encounters with Jesus, angels, demons, and everything in between. Some of these calls go on to become full episodes on our main show called God's Voice Today, but here you will hear them raw and unfiltered, just the way they happened. So without any further ado, let's dive into today's featured call. Enjoy. Well, Kevin, we'll jump right in. Kevin, you mentioned in the description that you sent my way that you were taken up to the throne room by two angels during a time of fasting. So can you tell me more about that?
Sure. I'll backtrack just a little bit because there's a little bit of context to that. So
sounds good.
This was 2021. This was May, and I'm miserable at this point. So it's a year into the pandemic. I'm out of college, but I have no career. I'm sick, so I haven't been working for maybe about like 4 or 5 months. But I'm searching, and I've been searching for a long time. Like I'm soul searching. I'm reading self-help books and productivity books. I'm doing everything, but I just feel this big void. And several years back, I'm noticing God knocking on the door, but I wasn't responding until, May 2021. And so, on May 23rd, 2021, I actually had a dream. The night before, I remember telling God, I said, "God, if you are out there, if you are real, then I just want you to take full control of my life because I can't do it anymore. And so if you're out there, just do whatever you want with me." And so that night I had a dream, and I remember it was daytime, but it was very dark, and it looked like there was this big storm coming. Like the wind was blowing and these huge dark clouds were coming down, and then the dream transitions into the night, and I'm at this sort of, I think it's like a party or like a festival, but there's just something off about it. There was just this bad feeling going on. And I'm sitting outside on this field surrounded by a lot of people, and we see the mountaintops, and, there's stars and the moon is bright. And we hear this like rumbling sound that's coming from the sky, from the heavens. And I look up and the moon disappears. The stars start to fall. People are panicking, and I get up and I am pleading and I'm begging for my life because I know what this means. And I remember in the dream, I was like, "Oh, Jesus, please, no, please, because I was not ready to see Jesus, and I knew what this meant." And so after that dream, and I should mention this was May 23rd, 2021. And I did not notice until a month after that. And this is just a big coincidence, maybe, but I found out that day was the day of Pentecost. So big coincidence, maybe, I'm not sure, but, throughout that week, I'm feeling like, okay, like this is from God, because that dream was just not, it wasn't just a product of my imagination. Like, this is God. I need to do something. I'm not in the church. I don't know anyone. So, I mean, what can I do? And so I came across a video on YouTube about fasting. And so I was like, all right, I'll do a 3-day Daniel fast for the last 3 days of May. And so the night before, I the night before my first day of fasting, I remember before going to bed, I was telling God, I was like, God, I don't know what to fast for. I have so many problems in my life, but if you can just give me knowledge, I will, just to figure this stuff out, then, that's all I want. So I remember it was weird because I remember just laying down and just closing my eyes, but I wasn't asleep. Like I remember I had just shut my eyes, I closed my eyes and then suddenly my vision got very bright. It just got very bright. And I started to see these two figures appear to me. And throughout the whole experience, I don't know if you've seen the movie, the Joseph the Dreamer, and the scenes where Joseph is having these dreams, and the dreams, they kind of look like Van Gogh paintings. It almost looked like that for throughout the whole experience, but it was very consistent. And so I remember seeing these two figures. They were dressed in white and they had like gold belts, and they grabbed me by my arms and I just felt like I got lifted up. And so I remember one of them looked over to me and said, be glad and rejoice because you're going to see the Lord. Wow. Be glad and rejoice because you're going to see the Lord. And I get lifted up very high, and suddenly they just kind of dropped me and I landed on this platform. And I remember just looking around, and it was this like beautiful, majestic hallway. Essentially what you read in Revelation, that's essentially what I was kind of seeing. Like these beautiful gems and stones on the walls, and it was just so beautiful. And so I'm walking down this hallway and I see a big light coming from that. And I'm seeing, I see a big gold throne, and I look up and I see like a spiral of just angels. Like it's just going up and up and up. And it's just like, there's just a ton of angels, nonstop. And I see this light comes towards me, and the voice said, I'm very happy and glad what you're doing for me. So I will give you the clarity and wisdom that you are seeking. And from behind the throne, there were these two like orbs that came by, and that they just started to like fly around me. And the voice said, these are your siblings, and they are very happy with how well of a brother you've been with your siblings down on earth. And I knew that, so I have two younger siblings, and I knew that my mom miscarried after me, but I did not know about the second one. And so I actually asked my mom, I'm like, hey Mom, did you miscarry twice? And she's like, yeah. Wow. So that's how I found out about the second one. And after that, I remember it was weird because now this vision kind of panned over to my bedroom. And at that time, I was living with my girlfriend, who's not my wife, but we weren't married. And I remember seeing my wife sleeping in the bed, and the voice said, my daughter, Michaela, because that's her name, my daughter, Michaela, I want you to bring her to her salvation, but hurry because time is running out.
Wow.
And then suddenly this man appears to me, which I know that this was Jesus because he was beautiful. He had long hair. He had a beautiful crown. His eyes were fire. And it looked like he had like a robe. It was kind of, I can't remember if it was like a red, purple robe that he had over his shoulders. And he came up to me and he said, the enemy's going to come after you because it knows what's been revealed to you. But do not worry. I am always there for you. Just call out my name and remember that I love you. And so for a second, it's like I heard this voice that just like a big scream in my head just said, "Wake up!" And I woke up, and like I said, I felt like I was not asleep. Like I felt like I had just closed my eyes and like I could just open them up at any point. And it was weird because I felt like from my chest up, it felt it was like it was lifting up. It felt like my spirit was out of my body. That's the best way I can explain it. And I'm like confused, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, I need to go to sleep. I have to fast tomorrow. And so I close my eyes and I go straight back into the vision. And now I see these two figures again, which is, I'd say that these were God's angels. Again, they're taking me by the arms, and I see Earth. They're taking me back to Earth. And I remember I'm like looking because it looks like I'm in space. And I'm starting to worry because I tell the angels, I'm like, wait, isn't this the second heaven? Isn't this where the demons are at? And one of them says to me, yes, but do not worry. We'll take you back home safely. And the angel on my right side left me because there was a demonic figure that was coming towards us. And so I saw that he pulled out a sword of fire and just went and just slay it. And then just like nothing, it just came back to me. And they ended up taking me back home. At that time, I was living in this apartment complex. And so I remember standing outside at night in the parking lot. I could see the apartments. I could see the vehicles. I could see the buildings. I could see the street. I can see everything. So it was like I was actually outside my apartment. And then I turn around to look at these figures that just brought me back home. And I see these two gigantic figures that they're just glowing. They're just like glowing like fire. They're tall. They're almost as tall as a building. And then one of them just kind of looks at me and says, "Don't worry, we'll protect your home, but go back into your body and go to sleep." And so I kind of fly into my bedroom and I see myself like in my bedroom. I'm looking myself in the third person. I see myself just there. And I guess I get like curious and I'm just kind of floating around. And then this angel being looks at me again and says, "It's not safe for you to be out here. Go back to sleep." And so I go into my body and I just kind of, I open my eyes and I'm just kind of out of it. And I guess in my mind, I'm just like, okay, what was that? I'm so confused. But I went back to bed and first thing in the morning, I started my fast. And from that point moving forward, I'd say for maybe about 3 or 4 months, I'm having nonstop visitations from demons. They are tormenting me through my dreams. Sometimes even in broad daylight, I am feeling like this sort of static. I'm seeing shadows. I'm feeling, just something always looking over my head. And I'm terrified. I'm terrified, but at the same time, God, he's definitely working through me because, he's changing my old ways. I had mentioned that my wife and I we weren't married. And so at that point, I remember us talking about it, and she would sleep alone in the bedroom. I'm sleeping in the couch, and we're just like, all right, we need to do the things the right way. And we end up going to church, and I'm reading my Bible for the first time. I read it, entirely for the first time. That same year we get married. That same year, God, we were almost homeless, and I didn't have a job. That same year, God gave that. He provided that. And so, God was definitely doing a lot for us that year.
Wow.
But still the torments were ongoing. My family, they all live in Mexico. And also when all this stuff was happening to me, I was also telling my mom, like, hey, you need to go back to church. And she went back to church. My siblings got baptized, and they're also having their own experiences. So that's a different topic. but for maybe about 2 years straight, I'm still having I'm having dreams. I'm having these very, I would say, sort of end time prophetic like dreams. One about a great wolf, like false prophecy and other stuff, just like war things going on. So, it would take me a whole long time to talk about that stuff too, but.
Well, Kevin, so big takeaway. So all that stuff happened to you. What are some takeaways? What did you learn from these visions?
Well, for the first time, I knew what it felt like to surrender everything, to submit to, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. To know what it's like to submit to something higher, and that regardless of how far you've been away from him, because I knew God, like I knew of God. I was raised in the church pretty much my whole life. As a kid, I knew of God. I knew who Jesus was, but I didn't really know much really about him. And once I got into college, I just completely disconnected from my faith because of like church hurt and stuff like that. And so I would blame that on God. But even despite all of that, God still had mercy on me. And after these experiences, I mean this sincerely. I felt unworthy the whole time, because I'm like, if I share these things, people are going to think I'm crazy. And at the same time, I don't want to share these things, because then I don't want people to think like, oh, you feel more righteous. I'm like, no, it's like on the contrary. Like I just think about Paul, where there's like I think it's like 2 Corinthians 12, the thorn in the flesh, and there's a man that goes into the third heaven and sees something, and I remember reading that. I'm just like, okay, like this sounds very, very familiar. And towards the very end, Paul, he's just so humble about it to where he just doesn't want to talk about it, and so that was sort of the approach I was taking. But during this whole time, I know that God was not only trying to get me back to walk in his path, but he was also trying to get me to bring other people back to him, because a lot of division has been taking place in my family, like divorces everywhere, and people getting involved in witchcraft, and just a lot of terrible things happening in my whole family, and I'm sure that's happening across, in many other families around the world. But I'm also taking from all this is that, Jesus is coming. He's coming back. He's near. I know I'm not the only one. I mean, in your channel, people are saying similar things, and I can relate to that. I've been feeling this
like urgency,
I guess,
right?
burden in my heart that I just need to tell people that, you need to get right with him. And just because you know of God doesn't mean that you're walking with him, because that was me. And so,
well, and that was me too. I think a lot of people that eventually, on the Christian walk, it becomes just knowledge, but information without application is just entertainment, right? Knowledge is potential power. It's not enough to know. You gotta, first of all, you gotta apply the things that you know, but when it comes down to the relationship, you gotta engage. You gotta get time. Like my father called me the other day, 2 days ago, and he was just reminding me like, hey, I see you're busy. You're cranking a lot of stuff. Are you spending time with the Lord like you should? I'm like, you're right. I should be spending more. First, seek the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and the rest will be added unto you. My first thing in the morning when I wake up should be on my knees, praying, reading the Bible, staying in the Word. Give him your best, your first hours, right? And thank God for for people like my father, for you, reminding others how important it is to be connected, because the times are coming where you got to hear for yourself. If you're not connected to the Holy Spirit, if you don't have that relationship, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. Well, Kevin, man, thank you so much for sharing all of that. Wow. Would you be willing to hop on the live stream and share that with everybody on both channels?
Sure. I'd be happy to.
Like on camera?
I'd have to pray about it, but right. I'm inclined to say yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, I will play this one regardless. This will be a standalone episode, and I'll play it in a live stream as well. But Kevin, thank you so much, man. This was awesome. Appreciate it.
No, thank you, and thank you for what you're doing. You know, you're definitely doing the Lord's work, and I pray that God continues to use you for His glory.
Thank you. We'll stay in touch, Kevin. God bless. Hey, if this story moved you, there is definitely more. Every day, someone new shares their supernatural encounter with Jesus. So hit subscribe right now and don't miss what's coming up next. And if you're ready for another powerful supernatural testimony, tap the next video on your screen right now, and I'll see you there.